Okay, so this is the second one I'm shooting today, and this is DC Multiverse Green Lantern John Stewart. And specifically, this is from the Justice League Endless Winter crossover, which I did not read because I don't read a lot of modern comics. So I don't know how accurate this guy actually is to that comic book. And I'm suspecting not as much as they might have you believe. Because looking at him, to me, this looks more like a costume that would be designed for a video game than a comic book. But we'll get into all that in a minute. First, let's have a look at the package a little bit. We can see that this is one that's collect to build the Frost King. So it's one of those that's it's a little more pricey. Anytime Mcfarlane does the build a figure thing, he marks the figures up by like about $5. But honestly, I feel like if you're buying 4 figures to put together this fifth figure, you're basically spending the same amount of money on 5 figures anyway, so it's not that bad of a deal. That is, if you want to get all 4 figures already. Like with Dark Knight Returns figures, I wanted to get all 4 of those figures, and I was happy to get Batman's horse. With these, well, I mean, I probably wouldn't mind having this Black Adam, and this Batman's actually kind of cool. I don't like this Wonder Woman. She's like weird. I don't like when Wonder Woman has pants. That's just always strange to me. And I know somebody's gonna say in the comments, "Oh, but it's endless winter, so she's cold, so she's got to dress for the cold." Yeah, go and read Alan Moore's For the Man Who Is Everything, and then get back to me. People need to read more comic books. That's just all there is to it. Wonder Woman doesn't get cold. That's just silly. Alright, so let's go ahead and open this up. We already looked at the cross on the back, and we already looked at, let's just build the Frost King. I guess he was the main villain from that crossover. And like I said, I haven't read that crossover, so I don't know much about that character. But I think I still might like to build him because he is a cool-looking figure, regardless. And I think he'd go good with my He-Man figures, if nothing else. So, again, like with Martian Manhunter that I just opened, it looks like these are the stand and the card are on a separate bubble, and you can see the stand went ahead and just pulled all the backing off of it. So, break through it. So, no flight stand for Green Lantern, unfortunately. Much like the Martian Manhunter, I kind of feel like Green Lantern should have had a flight stand. Let's see if I can get this off without ruining the card. And this is another reason that I suspect that this figure might not have originally been intended to be. I haven't looked into it or anything, so I'd probably look into it, because probably somebody's going to go, yeah, everybody knows this. This is something that's well known. Like, but I suspect what happened. You know how I'm always saying about these that, like, I wish they'd have actual artwork on there instead of just a picture of the figure I already have. Well, here they have some artwork, and it's some comic book artwork, and it doesn't look anything like the figure. I mean, it looks like the figure in that it's John Stewart, and recognizably John Stewart, but there's a lot of differences here. This is a traditional superhero costume. This is how it's usually worn, where it looks kind of like spandex or something like that. Notice the hand. He's got a bare hand with the ring on it, as John Stewart is normally drawn in the comic books. So, my theory, and like I said, I don't know anything about this, I haven't looked into it, it might not be the case, I might be way off base, but my theory is that they were not able to get a proper comic book version of John Stewart ready in time. And this is probably a design of John Stewart that was created for, like, a video game of some kind. Probably one of the Injustice games. So, I probably should have looked into it before I opened the figure. But, like, I just kind of want to get my action figure open. So, it really... But I'll probably look into that later. I'll probably make a post about it on Facebook once whether or not I know something about it. And he, like Martian Manhunter, has a lot of these plastic rubber tab things that I hate. And like normally, like I said, on these Mcfarlane figures, I'm used to them just having like the one at the waist, but him and Martian Manhunter, they just went crazy with him these days. They must have, like, got a special on these damn rubber tabs, and I'll just go ahead and put them everywhere, willy-nilly. There, I got him out. So there we got our Jon Stewart out. Not to be confused with the host of The Daily Show. This is the Green Lantern that was created by Neil Adams. Denny O'Neil had a hand in it too. So here's the cape for the Frost King. It's a heavy rubber cape. So it seems really flexible, but it's really thick. Set that aside for now. And we're going to pull his head out. Hopefully the head's just kind of... Did you really put a rubber tab on the head? Come on, man. That's foolish. Alright, so there's the head for the Frost King. And like I said, he looks pretty cool. I don't know nothing about this character, but it's a nice looking action figure. And I think that I would actually like to finish building him. If nothing else, then I can sit him on my He-Man shelf. I think he'd look really cool, you know, with some He-Man characters. Like, I could see him being, like, kind of one of those sort of one-shot He-Man villains that would, you know, show up on the rare episode where Skeletor wasn't the main villain. But if we look over Jon Stewart here, like I said, he's got that sort of video game look to him where they just want to add all this extraneous detail to him. And I would have much rather had like a simple comic book style costume. I don't really like him having all this extra gobbledygook on him as far as like the detailing and everything goes. And he seems like he's pretty damn tall too. Let's compare, because I happen to have this Batman here, the Jason Fabok Batman. I think they're about the same height. He might be a little slightly taller than Batman, but not by much. See, like, I've got their heels right next to each other. And here, on the monitor, it looks like Batman actually is a little taller. But to my naked eye, yeah, if I turn him around this way, I think then John looks a little taller than Bruce. But, you know, I don't mind him being a little bit taller. I just want him to be in scale. I don't really care, like, between Jon Stewart and Batman, I don't really care which one is taller. I kind of figure Martian Manhunter should be taller than pretty much everybody, though. Martian Manhunter should be like damn near 7 feet. Let's see how tall he is next to Martian Manhunter. Yeah, he's a little bit taller than Martian Manhunter. I don't know if it's like a deal breaker though. Like, you know, it's just like if I'd had my druthers, somebody had asked my input, who should be taller between Jon Stewart or John Jones, I would definitely say Jon Stewart. Or, I'm sorry, John Jones. So, one thing that irritates me about this figure when I got him is, like, you know, 90% of the time when I get a figure with fist hands, I just be like, I'm not ever going to use these fist hands. I prefer to have gripping hands. But Green Lantern would be the exception to that, because, of course, I want Green Lantern to use his ring, and he doesn't come with any extra hands. So, he's just got, like, this one open hand. He's going to have his ring on, and I really would have rather him had a fist. The one character I would have wanted to have a fist, and they made sure to give him 2 open hands. How ironic is that? The other thing that really bugs me about this figure, as far as that goes, is you can see he's got green gloves, and he's got his ring. The ring's on there, but it just doesn't stand out that much, because he's got these green gloves with all these, like, bells and whistles on there. There's all these knuckles and, you know, seams and things like that, and the ring just gets kind of lost in it, and Green Lantern's ring is, I don't know if you guys know this, if you ever read the comic book or seen any of the animated movies or, you know, even the movie with Ryan Reynolds in it, any of the cartoons, anything, Green Lantern's ring is kind of important. You know, Green Lantern, he uses a ring. It's his superpower. He's got to use that ring. So, but it just gets lost in that green hand. So remember how I was talking about, like, you know, he's got like a sleek looking superhero outfit here. And remember I said, remember that bare hand? No bare hand here. He's got gloves. So on the Justice League animated series, he had gloves, but they were black gloves. So the ring still stood out on there. You know, and likewise, you know, if you look at like Hal Jordan in the classic Silver Age Green Lantern outfit, he's got white gloves. So that green ring stands out on there. So Kyle Rayner had green gloves, but they were green gloves that didn't have fingers on them. They were just like green that kind of like went like not even like all the way up to his knuckles. They just kind of they were these funky gloves that kind of like came up and just kind of wrapped around like the palm of his hand, I think, like about like right there. But his fingertips were still bare, so you could still see the ring on there. Alan Scott, bare hands. Guy Gardner, white gloves. This guy, they gave him green gloves with a green ring on it, and it just kind of blends right in. So, what I'm going to do is, since this is obviously sculpted to, have the ring on there, it's obviously sculpted to have gloves, so I can't really give him bare hands anymore, I'm going to wind up painting his hands black, so now he has black gloves. I'm still going to leave the green at the wrist, because that's how it was on Justice League Animated Series, but that's how my John Stewart is going to roll. He's going to have some black gloves. And I honestly kind of wonder if the green hands were a mistake, because if you look at the wrist joints in between the hand and the forearm, he's got black wrist joints. So like they don't I don't think they generally paint these wrist joints, do they? That's like the color that it's intended to be. Like, they just mold it in that color. So yeah, I'm thinking there was some kind of miscommunication, and he actually was supposed to have black gloves, but they messed that up. Now, I could be wrong about that. If I'm right about my theory that this is based on some video game design, maybe they designed it that way in the video game. Who knows? But also, the kind of Mcfarlane butterfly joints, I think that kind of interferes with the costume a little bit, because then you see he gets this kind of green stripe down underneath his armpit when he raises his arm that way. Now, if you've got his arms like lowered down, you're not going to notice, and it's just going to blend right in. But if you want him to be like in some kind of flight pose, and you can get him into a pretty good flight pose. Hey, look at that. That looks awesome. You know what would look really awesome is if I could display him like that on a flight stand. So yeah, they really should have gave him a flight stand. I wonder if McFarlane just sells the flight stands like separately, individually, so you can buy one for whatever figure. I'm gonna try to get him into like a Gil Kane kind of pose. Like Gil Kane would have Green Lantern like flying like that. Of course, that was usually Hal Jordan, because, like I said, Neil Adams created John Stewart a little later. But he still drew John Stewart from time to time, like mostly on covers, I think. He might have done him on some interiors too, I don't know. But I really like John Stewart. I think he's a cool character. Like, he was Green Lantern around the time that I first seriously started to collect DC Comics. So that was something where I was like, oh, a new guy is Green Lantern? Wow, okay. And, I didn't know that he was a character that had been around since, like, the early 70s. I'd just first seen him in those issues. And, like, the main one I remember was where he decided he wasn't going to have a secret identity anymore, and just decided to reveal to the world that he was Green Lantern. And on the cover, it showed him, like, being hoisted on the shoulders of a lot of the people from Ferris Aircraft. And, he was using his ring to remove his mask. And Hal Jordan, who'd quit being Green Lantern, was like, he can't reveal his identity to everybody. And Katma was like, well, guess what? He just did. And I'm just thinking to myself, dude, if you don't like it, you shouldn't have quit. If you don't like how he's being Green Lantern, maybe you shouldn't have quit being Green Lantern. But yeah, John Stewart was a pretty cool character in the comic book. He was always, I thought, a pretty cool character in the comic book. But honestly, I kind of feel like he didn't really live up to his full potential until they put him onto the Justice League animated series. And like I said, I kind of feel like this style of costume is more based on the animated series, where it's like a mostly black bodysuit and just the green over the shoulders and the top of the chest, and then the green boots and green gauntlets. Like I said, on the animated series, he had black gloves, and I'll be fixing that, so mine will have black gloves. But I always liked, of all the versions of John Stewart, I liked him on the Justice League animated series best. And while this obviously isn't an animated version of Jon Stewart, it's got the right silhouette to it of that costume, and I really like it. Like I said, I do wish that I could have got one that was a little more of like a sleek superhero outfit and didn't have all the, piping and everything like that on there. But honestly, it doesn't look too bad. I don't mind it so much. But the second that I can get a Jon Stewart that's going to have like a more sleek superhero outfit, I'm gonna. but this is good for now. I definitely like this for now. My only complaint is he doesn't have flight stand, as far as like actual complaints and not just like nitpicky stuff. He really should have come with a flight stand. Since he was like a little bit of a higher price point, I kind of figure they probably should have given him a flight stand. He does have these cool swords though, so let's go ahead and see if I can get the swords into his hand. And you can see that they are molded in like a translucent green plastic. So, it's obviously like something that he whipped up with his ring. I'll see if I can get one in his hand. It is a tight fit because those Mcfarlane hands, the plastic is a little bit more stiff on there than I feel like they need to be. So he's got two swords and he's dual wielding. And I kind of figure like that's probably like, I haven't read the comic book, so I don't know if he actually uses these swords in the comic book or not. But I figure probably the reason that he has swords as weapons, either for the figure or in the comic book, is just kind of a nod to the more sort of fantasy feel that they must have been going for with that story. Because like I said, to me, I see that Frost King character, and to me he looks like a He-Man character. I'm not even going to bother to put the sword in there. It's just too much of a struggle at this point. Like, especially because I'm just going to wind up taking the sword out of his hand anyway, so I can go ahead and paint the hands. I'm just not going to fool with it. One thing I did notice is he's got a little peg hole in the back here, so that looks like he was designed to have some kind of stand fit into his back, not just the kind of display stand like with Dr. Fate where it clamped around his waist, but more like one where it kind of pegged into his back. So yeah, I kind of wonder, like I said, I kind of suspect that this was a Jon Stewart that was not necessarily intended to be with this Endless Winter wave, but it was just one where they needed a Jon Stewart and they had this one ready, and it probably came out of a video game or something. That's my hypothesis anyway. So without having actually looked it up, so I'm probably gonna look it up at some point, and then that'll be on my Facebook or something like that. But that's what I suspect happened. But anyway, Jon Stewart's a pretty cool figure. I think that if I do wind up getting the rest of this wave to build the Frost King, he'll probably still wind up being my favorite figure out of this wave. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Jon Stewart. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. And let me know what you think about Jon Stewart and Green Lantern. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye.